meeting is being recorded.
So I'm just going to start the recording just so that I have it for YouTube purposes, but I'll go ahead and get started since it's 7 o'clock. I don't want to keep anybody longer than what they are anticipating, but thank you for coming. My name's Erica Amans, and I am with Coldwell Banker here in the Northeast Quadrant of Angola. The purpose of this is simply for clarity purposes and to share a little bit of information about me and where I live, which is on Snow Lake. And so it's just a really great community. It's very small. But my goal is for you to feel like you've learned a little bit of something more than when you logged in. So that is the whole purpose of tonight. Um, Buying, why this matters to me, buying a lake home is just very different because it's more lifestyle driven. It's a decision that affects your daily enjoyment when you're here at the lake. There can be limited inventory with fewer choices, which makes it more competitive depending upon what you're looking for. Where each lake functions a little bit differently. My philosophy is there's not one size that fits all. And it can be an emotional purchase. And I think providing clarity to clients helps them avoid any regret down the line. The local perspective, my grandparents bought in 1951 on Snow Lake. And so I have grown up with the lake life and living at the lake. And so that has just really helped shape my perspective and how I help clients navigate through a lake home purchase. It could be whether you're moving to the area full time and finding something that is more of a home versus a cottage, talking about how you would use it. Is it just going to be a weekend place? Are you big? Do you entertain a lot of people? Or are you planning on having a lot of people up or over? So for me, it really does go beyond, what the actual view is. And how you plan on using that space and making sure that it's practical for long-term decisions. We don't have a lot of turnover. We don't have, it's not like the spring market hits and we have, 200 listings that all of a sudden come on the market. I mean, we might only have one or two properties that really fit what a buyer is looking for, or what you may be looking for. Um, when I don't know if anybody has waved a magic wand to think about, like, what does that lake life look like for you? And nobody has to answer, but I just think it's a great question to be turning around in the back of your head to see, what is it that you're looking for and how do you want to use the house and the land. So there are two different types of lakes in our area. We have 101. We have more non-ski lakes versus ski lakes. Ski lakes, of course, allow for tubing, jet skiing, wake surfing, wakeboarding, all of the things from sunup to sundown on most lakes. We have a couple that have limited hours that also share borders with the state of Michigan. So some of the lake is in Indiana and some of the lake is in Michigan. So if you're on a ski lake, obviously you're going to have busier hours during the summertime. It's more social. There's a lot more activities. Different lakes have different things. Where a non-ski lake is going to be obviously a little bit quieter, calmer environment. It's great for fishing, real relaxing, kayaking, paddleboarding, where you have no speedboats going about. So, oh, whoops. I just went all the way through everything. Um, there's also different values. So homes that are on a ski lake do have a higher value, a higher resale value, a higher price point versus non-ski lakes. And then you have to think about if you want to be on a channel or if you're okay with being on a channel because you want all of that extra activity that comes with a ski lake. Um, I think it's important to know what your frontage is and how much do you have. Do you have a 40-foot lot or do you have something larger at like a 75-foot lot? Um, how far can your dock go out? What's the water depth like at the pier? That's really important. These big ski boats these days have big V drives. And so if you're on a portion of a lake that has a little bit of a shallower shoreline, that might not work for a big V drive boat. Um, so location on a lake plays a big um, role in, what you're looking for. Do you want a sandy beach because you want your kids and grandkids to be able to walk right out and, jump in the water? That plays a role in value. Um, the ski lakes, like I said, are going to be a little bit more of they are a higher price point, but they also have more to do. Like, for instance, the Lake James chain, we have over 2,000 surface acres. We also have multiple sandbars. We have restaurants that you can boat to. We have a big 4th of July fireworks show every year. Most of the ski lakes do have their own fireworks show. And then we've got Hamilton Lake, we've got Clear Lake, we've got Lake Gage, and Crooked Lake. Those are all individual lakes and they're not connected to another lake. So the Lake James chain consists of James, Jimerson, Snow, Little, and Big Otter. And so that gives you the whole 2,000 surface acres for that particular chain. Hamilton, Clear, and Crooked are all about 800 surface acres. Um, Lake George is a ski lake between the hours of 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. So there, it's more of a quieter time before 10 a.m. and after 6 p.m. So that lake itself gives, I think, consumers and residents of Lake George a little bit of the best of both worlds. Um, Let's see, Crooked Lake is again 800 surface acres. It's its own individual lake. It does not connect to anything else. Lake Gage is a smaller lake. It is the only lake in our county that has a limestone bottom. So there are days when I'm out at that lake that it really does look like the Caribbean. It is so crystal clear. The bottom is beautiful. They have one patch of weeds in the entire lake, which is really kind of amazing. Um, Timing of a purchase and what is important to you. So seasonality in our area for these types of homes do really kind of matter. Right now, our snowbirds are starting to come home. They're talking about putting things on the market. So we usually do have a big push at the beginning of spring. And then we'll see another rush after the 4th of July weekend, and then again at Labor Day weekend time because they've used it one last season. They're getting ready to go back to Florida. So that we do see that a lot in our area because we really only have a 3 to 4 month time span of where our inventory is really kind of at its peak and at its high. Um, so that kind of sometimes it can determine pricing, not all the time. It really kind of depends upon what has been going on in the market and what the inventory level is like. Um, but if someone is determined to purchase a lake home and be able to use it for that year, waiting too long can shorten your season at the lake. So So these are just some things over my 13 years that I have seen, as far as some common misconceptions, common mistakes. It's one thing to fall in love with the view of the property, but if we forget about the functionality of the house and what the house actually needs to serve, um, it can be I haven't seen it be a complete regretful purchase, but if you go to sell, that's where I've seen where people are like, oh, I bought it at you bought it at the top of the market, a few years back, and now you're wanting to cash in on your return, but the value doesn't quite substantiate, that high return rate. Not knowing all the lake rules and having any surprise limitations. I always make sure that my clients know if we're looking at a ski lake, a non-ski lake, when we start their search. So if they only want to be on a ski lake or they want to have access to a ski lake, we're only going to be looking at those particular lakes that give them that functionality. Um, Underestimating the maintenance and having budget stresses. I have had people tell me, like, I didn't realize it would be this much upkeep and this much maintenance. Um, and it's not really the home itself, but it's all of, so if you have a pier and a boat lift and all those things usually have to come out of the water in the fall and they've got to go in the spring. And whether you have a lot of young men, strong men that are in your family, not everybody always has the time to be able to do that. So, paying for those services, is sometimes something that clients have underestimated. So, we talk about those things, as far as getting the boat lift in, getting the boat lift out if there's more than one, where to store your boat. Not all of our properties have back lots with detached garages or barns, so sometimes you have to pay off site for your boat to be stored. um, and then also just waiting too long to get educated about the area. I think that's the most important thing for me, and the purpose of me putting, some of my seminars together is just helping people understand and giving them the opportunity to ask questions in an unpressured environment. And so being educated about the area, so that if you see something or you have questions about something, you don't miss that opportunity. I tell my sellers, and I have found this to be 100% true, that the first 2 to 3 weeks on the market is the most critical time. So if we are overpriced, buyers are going to keep scrolling. They're not, if they don't see the value, they're just going to keep scrolling and they won't reach out to anybody to ask any questions. Um, I think that a big question for somebody is lake living right for you? What are you wanting to get out of, living at the lake, or having a weekend place, whether that's full time or just on the weekends or big holidays? We have a lot of Airbnb and VRBOs in our area. We don't have a lot of HOAs that forbid them. So, because everybody owns their lakefront. Um, so, are you looking for immediate family needs? Are you looking for long-term enjoyment? Maybe a legacy for, your children to be able to enjoy and your grandchildren. The other thing that we, have to think about, because this is very important, but budget, and what you're looking to spend, does that correlate with your needs and where you want to be? Um, and does your future plans fit into the resale flexibility of your purchase? If you're like, okay, I think we want to get into this for 3 to 5 years, or maybe it's longer, but making sure that if you do purchase something, that we know that you're going to be getting it at a good value where we believe that your, investment is going to appreciate. Um, should have shared, but like this picture here is of Crooked Lake. I had a listing on Second Basin, and so this is a Crooked Lake looking into First Basin. Um, So just, I mean, next is I do kind of open it up for questions and answers. If somebody wants to ask a question about a specific lake or something that fits them specifically, you're more than welcome to. I always encourage people to move at their own pace, um, because I am one of the most low pressure people I feel that I know. Um, so I don't know if anybody has any questions.